Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My special guest today is Steve Starkey, one of the producers of Forrest Gump. Steve has worked alongside some of the most influential directors of our generation, including George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Robert Zemeckis. In his new book, Stupid Is as Stupid Does, Steve takes us behind the scenes and shares his memories of the unlikely journey to make the Oscar winning film. His first book was Breaking and Entering: The Education of a Film Producer by Steve Starkey. And I would definitely check that out. If you are going into the film business, you want to be a producer, a director, doesn't matter what. This is a great book, really great book. Breaking and Entering: The Education of a Film Producer. It's a book for anyone who ever sat through a movie and wondered, how in the world do you get a job as a film producer? Um, so we heard a little bit about that in the first segment, how you became a producer. And I love that story. But let's talk about Forrest Gump and how it all began. So let's begin with the story when your filmmaking partner, Robert Zemeckis, dropped the script on your desk.
Yeah, it's Bob is one that you could never predict what kind of a movie he's going to make next. And I discovered that over the 30 plus years of working with him. But in this particular case, he drops this on my desk and he said, take a look at it. I'm curious what you think. Now you learn from Bob, he is curious about what you think about the script, but you can also tell that he's going to make this movie and there is nothing going to stop him. Nothing. So, and then as he's walking out the door, he says, and by the way, Tom Hanks is attached to star in the film. Well, now I'm, even already Tom was an icon. And so I started reading the script, and it was a powerful script to read. And the wonderful thing about it is the story just kept unfolding. It wasn't a typical dramatic structure. It was just a tale of a simple man and these extraordinary adventures. And you just keep going, and there's humor and sadness and irony, and it's all the things in a movie that you love. And I put this thing down and went, whew, wow, that is something, So I right away, I walked in the bottom. I said, my God, that's a movie that we have to make. And where did this come from? Like,
Yeah.
we're like, did somebody just make this up? And he said, no, it was based on a book by Winston Groom. He's from Mobile, Alabama, and wrote this tale after seeing a simple man in town, and kind of just took off and wrote it very quickly. And then it was adapted by Eric Roth, wonderful screenplay. And he said, but I haven't read the book, but I love the script. And he said, so how do you think we're going to make this thing?
Yeah, that was my question.
It's like, I don't know, but I just finished this emotional journey of reading the screenplay. I don't know, but let me go back to my desk and think about it. So
Steve,
anyway,
did you get emotional when you read it? Just
oh
like
yeah, no,
just as well, it popped off the page like it.
oh yeah,
Like
it
screen.
was so well illustrated in the writing that it was like reading a rich novel, where you just dive into the novel, and it's like you don't even hear anything around you while you're reading the book, and you're just so engaged with the characters you can't stop, and you don't think about anything else. It was like that, but of course screenplays you read in a little over 2 hours, so it's like in a movie length of time. It's not like a book where it's over a day or days. So yeah, you were laughing, you found yourself crying and sort of stopping for a minute and thinking about Forrest and what just happened, and then the serendipity and the luck, and what kind of fate was involved in these events that happened to his life, all the things that his mama talked to him about when he asked her, what's my destiny, mama? And he said, well, Forrest, you're going to have to figure that out for yourself, because life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And boy, I tell you, in this story, you certainly never knew what was coming next. But in any case, yeah. And so I asked Bob, did we have any seed money, something so I can start to bring in some consultants, some experts to help figure out, some of the basics of making the movie. And so we were given a little bit of a cash flow so I could bring in a great production designer, Rick Carter, and I had a line producer who helped with the budgeting and scheduling with myself and Charles Neuwirth. And so what my idea was is since it was based on this book, I thought, we should really go down into the South and immerse ourselves in the feeling of the South. This is where the heart of this story is. And that is going to define so much of the film. We need to go there. And then hopefully, because there were these movies within the movie of shrimping in Vietnam, maybe we can find locales around this southern town where we can go off and do the shrimping part of the movie or this, the Vietnam portion, and not have to travel so much, So that was the first thing we did is we, after reading the book, which by the way, was a huge departure from the script that Eric Roth wrote, we headed into the South and we went into Alabama. Actually, we first started in Louisiana because I guess shrimping kind of took me there thinking, well, if we can do the shrimping and we find a cool little town, well, now we probably can find some bayou country to do the Vietnam, but it didn't quite shape up. So then we moved over to Alabama to see what Winston was writing from, but nothing had any character that we were looking for. And in fact, we went on to Georgia. We went to where they shot Fried Green Tomatoes. And it's funny, you stand in some of these towns and go, what's Southern about this town? It could be in Missouri, and so, but then the location scout, her name was Mary Morgan, a great location scout. She said, I want to take you guys up into South Carolina. So we go up to South Carolina and she takes us down this country road and we stopped at the head of a little dirt road, taking us into an open field, and draped down this road were these huge oak trees with Spanish moss. And I'm telling you, when the group of us stood there looking down this alley of oak trees, we said, there's no other place you can be than the South. This place defined the South. And Rick Carter, the designer, said, well, right at the end here, there used to be a house and we could build Forrest's house right here. And you could come up this alley and lead you to this house. And all of a sudden, the whole thing started making sense. Like we didn't know what we were really going down the wrong road. What we really needed to do was find where's Forrest from. And so then we went to a nearby town and it turned out to be fine to be Forrest Town because all he does is runs through the town a few times and walks with his mama one night. It was really like his home that was the home for the film. And then as it turned out, right there was a field that we could turn into Jenny's farm. We could have an iconic oak tree. We could shoot shrimping just a few miles away. We had, the bayou I was looking for in the backcountry there in these swamps. We could shoot Vietnam. So all of a sudden we had this nucleus where the whole movie took place. Except for cityscapes in Washington, D.C. and all these other things. But
the Santa Monica Pier.
but anyway, the movie was starting to feel like, okay, we know how to do this. And I knew how to budget it and how to come up with some scheduling idea. And so that's sort of how that aspect started. And of course, in tandem with that was casting the movie. Mm-hmm. So we got back, once we felt like we had a hand. By the way, before we left, we flew in and out of Savannah, Georgia. Mary said, well, let me take you to the historic section of Savannah. This could be a perfect place for the bench. And so Rick and Mary took us there, and that's where we set Forrest bench, was in Savannah. So the South really accomplished a lot of the movie around South Carolina and that part of Georgia.
Speaking of the bench, I have a really important question for you. The cover of your book, you're sitting on the bench as Forrest did.
Yes.
And the book Stupid is as Stupid Does by Steve Starkey. Steve, so you're sitting on the bench. Is that the same bench, or did you? Can you give away a little bit of that photo magic?
What happened is, while I started writing, I thought to myself, God, wouldn't it be great to illustrate this story with some pictures? So I called the Paramount film library, and I was still friends with some of the people who worked there, and said, "You didn't keep an archive of the Forrest Gump stills that were taken during the shooting of the movie, did you?" He said, "Oh yeah, we have it all cataloged. It's all digitized." I said, "Well, can I look at them and possibly put them in a book?" They said, "Yeah, yeah, you have to get the permission from the people in the photos, but yes, you can." 24,000 images were I was given to look through. At the very end of that 24,000 images was the photo shoot when Tom did his photo shoot for the poster. And some of the shots were without Tom on the bench. So I'm sitting there looking at that going, hey, what if I take this picture without anyone on the bench and shoot myself and then put myself on the bench and make it like, in other words, I wanted the title to not only reflect what Forrest's mom said to him, but to also reflect the actions I took during making the movie. Was also, in a sense, the stupid is as stupid does could have applied to me as well, or I should say, did apply to me. So yeah, that's how I put this.
Brilliant.
That's how I put this cover together.
It's a great cover. Okay, I am with Steve Starkey. He is my special guest today on the show. We're talking about his new book and the behind the scenes of Forrest Gump, which is 30 years old, 30th anniversary. It's amazing. I couldn't believe it myself when it was 30. I looked it up and I said, no way, that was 1994. It feels like it was yesterday. Stupid is as stupid does. I really feel like I should be doing that with an accent, the Tom Hanks accent, when I read the book title.
But you
Stupid, but I won't
better
embarrass
than I
myself.
would.
Stupid is as stupid does. The unlikely journey of a producer on Forrest Gump. That producer we're talking about, Steve Starkey, he's the author. There's a foreword by Tom Hanks. You got to read this book. It is really, really great behind the scenes of one of the best movies in cinema history. Forrest Gump, six Oscars they won on this film, including Best Picture, Best Actor Tom Hanks. I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, you definitely got to. But read the book first. Get a little behind the scenes. It's going to answer all your questions about what it's like, what it was like to make this movie. We're going to continue the conversation with Steve Starkey after this quick break. I wanted to mention Alan Silvestri, Forrest Gump Suite. We are playing that throughout the show. Beautiful soundtrack. All these different ingredients came together to make this film. And there are so many talented people that were involved. And that's what it takes to make a movie like this. It's Forrest Gump. And we'll be right back. But while we're gone, go ahead. One more time, I'm going to give you the name. Stupid is as stupid does. The Unlikely Journey of a Producer on Forrest Gump by Steve Starkey. You can get it anywhere you get your books. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.